I do not believe this is a difficult finals to explain. Number one, that's why I picked the Celtics in 6. They've got a much deeper roster, especially offensively. They just got more guys that can score 22 points. Secondly, Kyrie is projecting that it doesn't bother him. Clearly it does. The fans in Boston are in his head. He's played like garbage the first 2 games. Another thing is the Celtics are hunting Luka. This is one of the things we talked about before the series. Make Luka work on the defensive end. He will eventually wear down. I didn't think he'd wear down by game 2, but he looks tired, fatigued, and beat up. And Porzingis, when he's healthy, I'm sorry. He's just different. He matters a lot. This has become a one-man team, Luka, against a much deeper roster. It reminds me of some of those LeBron James finals where he was overmatched. The difference is Luka's not getting blamed. LeBron always took all the heat. The Celtics right now have 5 different players, 5, averaging 16 or more. Dallas has 1. You could walk into a YMCA and see the talent disparity here. The Celtics bigs, Horford, Porzingis, are just much more experienced and more skilled than the Mavericks bigs. Sometimes in sports, you just get bad matchups, even in a national championship. We've seen it in college football a lot. Denver, Boston, what everybody thought would happen, didn't happen because the Nuggets blew a 20-point lead in Game 7. That would be a great finals. I mean, to sum it up, Luka had a bad second half yesterday. Just a bad second half. More turnovers than field goals made. And Dallas circled the drain. Jason Tatum's been off for 2 straight games in the finals, and they've rolled in both. It's just different rosters. Boston got a lot more dudes. Now, the West has been deeper than the East for the last 2 decades or more. But that doesn't mean the best team can't come out of the East. I mean, Porzingis didn't play at all in those playoffs in the East, and they rolled over everybody. And I think if he was missing, this would be a much more competitive series. But it should be noted, as much as Boston dominated the Eastern Conference, regular season and playoffs, they also had a record of 25-7 in the regular season against the West. So they're the best team, best point differential. We said this last week. The NBA would prefer you not be able to do what the Celtics did, which is add 2 excellent players to already 2, 3 really good players. It feels lopsided. It feels like a mismatch. So if you go back and look at the playoffs, you've seen sweeps, gentlemen sweeps, and mismatches, and the Celtics have been involved in most of them. It's got a very rock, paper, scissors feel to it. Varsity versus JV. I said this last week. The Celtics are too good and too deep not to win at least one finals. They're a little too odd and historically weird to be a dynasty. And by the end of next year, Derek White, they won't be able to afford him, I imagine. Porzingis' health. Jrue Holiday's getting older. But for this year, this looks like easily the best team. And next year, my guess is they win it again in the East and meet the Denver Nuggets again. But right now, you've got yourself a mismatch. The bigs for Boston, more skilled, older. Defensive wings, Boston's got more. Offensive fluidity, Boston's better. It's not close. So a big story over the weekend, Caitlin Clark, who is not one of the top 12 to 15 WNBA players, did not make the Olympic team. I hear that all the time. But Christian Laettner wasn't one of the top 100 players in the NBA, and he made an Olympic team. Jaylen Brown, for the record, is not on this Olympic team. He's one of the top 15 players. He's going to win finals MVP potentially. Diana Taurasi is not one of the 15 best players in the women's game. She's making the team. Olympic basketball team, men's and women's, has always been subjective and very political at the end of the roster. Isaiah Thomas didn't make it. Why? Michael Jordan didn't like him. To me, it feels like an opportunity wasted. When Conor McGregor came into the UFC, there were fighters over the last 5-6 years who passed up immediate title fights to fight Conor McGregor. Why? Eyeballs. Yeah. You don't think when Tiger Woods had that 10, 12-year historic run Guys didn't fight to be in his foursome. Eyeballs. The WNBA Finals had 700,000 viewers. The draft that included Caitlin Clark had 3 times as many. I would make the argument, like a Tiger Woods or a Conor McGregor in their prime, she'll make other people money beyond herself. Rising tide lifts all boats. Instead of getting 7 million viewers, you'll get 14 to 18 with Caitlin Clark, maybe more. The 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th best player on the women's Olympic team would make 6 or 7 figures in endorsements. The women's basketball team does not lose in the Olympics. I think they've won 7 straight golds. You probably didn't know that because you didn't watch. And you would. Life, whether it's a relationship, business, sports, life gives you so few big waves. When they do, grab your surfboard. Bryce Harper. Boxing's never had another Muhammad Ali. Tiger Woods. Conor McGregor. Caitlin Clark. I'm hearing all this rigidity. I know women's basketball. I've covered the women's Olympics. Nobody knows it like me. Oh, God, you sound like an old baseball writer. Stop being precious. Stop being rigid. Stop telling us how much you know. Here's what I know. WNBA now is flying chartered flights. She would triple the TV ratings. Again, life doesn't give you, sports doesn't give you, business doesn't give you a lot of these kind of waves. Grab the surfboard. She's here for you. By the way, the NBA would die to have a domestic star nearly as popular as Caitlin Clark. Oh, wait, they do. Anthony Edwards. They put him on the team. Anthony Edwards today is not as good as Jaylen Brown. I think he could be by the end of next year. And I think after the trade deadline, I've said this, he and Wemby could be surging as faces of the league. But Ant Edwards isn't as good as Jaylen Brown now. Ant is unrefined. He's up and down. He's hot and cold. Jaylen Brown's great every night. They found a spot for him on the team. Women's basketball feels like it's suffering from spite or historically low self-esteem, where they want to prove that they know more than you do. Here's what I know. Caitlin Clark would make all the other women on the Olympic team money. She'd make them more famous. She'd give them opportunities. They'd become potentially more household names. It's not just about Caitlin Clark. In fact, I'd argue it's very little about Caitlin Clark. It's an opportunity wasted. You go ahead and lecture us about how you know the game and you've covered the Olympics. Good for you. But some stuff is business 101. This is a layup, and you blew it. It's not a 360. It's not a no-look pass. It's not beating the Celtics. This was a layup, and you bricked it. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.